Hey everybody, Father Peter here. Welcome to my weekly video log. It's a very exciting video log for me because we got John Kennedy here. John Kennedy the third, by the way. John, tomorrow you're going to be ordained a transitional deacon in the Episcopal Church, on your way eventually to becoming a priest in the Episcopal Church. And you're raised up in this parish, and I just want to say congratulations from all of us.
Thank you.
So, how do you feel? I mean, you're a day away from something you've been working toward for an incredibly long time.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to think that it's been a long road. I mean, 8 years from the time I started thinking about it, 4 years from the time I really started going for it. And now it's just a day away. I mean, at least one huge milestone on this step, with one more to go, being the priestly ordination. It feels really good. It feels a little strange because ordination is a change. It's like picking up a certification in another field, but it's also unlike that. It has a claim on your being, and it's what I want, but it is exciting and also a little scary to be at this time. It's a good fear.
Yeah, well, that's because it's about to be something wildly different and wildly new, and when you're heading into something from which there is no turning back.
Exactly.
And so therefore, to that degree, it's a little bit like marriage. It's also a little bit like marriage because you're about to marry yourself to some degree in a particular way to Jesus and to the body of Christ in any way. I mean, I wonder if you might say a word about that nexus point about the church and Jesus and you. I mean, how do you think about it and all of that?
Oh, yeah. At the center of why I want to do this was this growing sense of what it means to be truly alive, truly human, and that the answer for me is found in Jesus and in the church, which is his body. So to be joined to that in a very clear, kind of public, official way has a lot to do with why I want to do this. Yeah.
Well, it is an incredibly public thing, and it is a huge transition to go from preparation to being in, and it's a huge thing to begin to dress like I dress. I mean, so tomorrow for the first time you're going to put a shirt on that looks something like this and one of these, and it'll undoubtedly feel completely bizarre. Have you tried your cargos on yet to make sure they fit?
Yeah, some trial and error involved.
Yeah. Did you look at yourself in the mirror and wonder like, who is this guy in the mirror?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. So that is, it will in time become a way of being for you that is deeply embedded in your being. Okay, so let's kind of go back. Where were you 8 years ago?
I was in college in Boston, Berklee College of Music.
Yeah.
And at this time I was, in addition to being a music student, just completely engrossed in all things spiritual, theological, reading, listening to lectures, sermons that I found online, just journaling almost compulsively, trying to figure this God thing out. And this came to define the sorts of conversations I had with my friends. And I think the thought first came to me, but within a short period of time, I had friends who were saying, maybe you should think about this as a vocation. And then it was later that year that I came back here for the first time, having been a child here, and then my parents went away when I was a teenager. And so I started talking about this with Father Peter and the other clergy there at the time, late 2011. And and it was
seems like a long time ago.
Yeah, it was just sort of there, cooking. But it took a few twists and turns to really get to the decision point. It's like this is actually what I want to go for.
Yeah. So I'm reminded of Frank Griswold, the former presiding bishop of the Episcopal Church, who loves to quote the scriptures, "What God has made crooked, who are we to make straight?"
Yeah.
And certainly your journey has straightened out, but it was all kind of all over the place for some time. And now you're heading into a vocation. A vocation is what you do on the outside is who you are on the inside. And I wonder if you might just say a word about your inside. You have a contemplative spirit. You're a man who's very comfortable with silence. Your last summer, all the time you spend in silence. I wonder if you just might say to folks a little bit about the depths of your soul and the role of silence in your life, your role of just being with God, your being and God's being together.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great question. I became drawn to contemplative spirituality through Thomas Merton early in my Christian path. And I think this emerged from this intuition that God is beyond what we can talk about, really. Our language can point to God in ways that are necessary and helpful. But ultimately, the real thing can't really be said or understood. As the cloud of unknowing, this great text of Christian mysticism puts it, God cannot be known by the mind, but by love. And so these contemplative practices of quiet, of getting beyond language, getting beyond the things that crowd out this sort of clear, wordless apprehension of the mystery of God, have been a way for me to really connect to God and have this sense of God's love being with me, of being in me and in everybody and for everybody. And it's an exciting thing to see how in other avenues, or other areas, I should say, of our culture, this has been an intuition that other people get, often with different language. But I mean, the popularity of meditation, I think, indicates this, that people find something when they quiet down, whether or not they name it God, whether or not they name it Jesus. But this has been at the heart of my path, and I'm really excited to see what I can do from that place as a priest, both helping to enrich the lives of other Christians, but also, engaging with people who are outside of the Christian fold, but also have this sense of what one finds in silence.
Yeah. Well, I think you're the right guy for the right time. We live in an unbelievably loud world. Mm-hmm. It's as though, as you know, we were trying to read something, but the letters are all too close together. They're all chunked on top of each other, and we can't read the scriptures of our lives. We can't read the scriptures of God's action in our world today until we put some silence in there and pull it apart and begin to find that in. So you're bringing your gift at the right time. I really believe that. So the first place you're bringing your gift, to be a chaplain at the Kent School in Kent, Connecticut, near and dear to my heart. Right. A thought or a word about where you're headed here in the fall?
Yeah, I'm going to the Kent School. This was Peter's first gig out of seminary.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's a cool thing. It was not planned this way. I was not just looking to follow Peter Walsh's professional trajectory.
Don't do that.
But I'm an ordinand in Connecticut, and so I was looking for a call in Connecticut, and Kent was on the list, and so I spoke to their chaplain, Kate Kelderman, who's known to you, and her sister known to many at St. Mark's, Sally.
Yeah, Sally.
And it seemed like fit.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm going, and it's a really exciting thing. I've worked with youth before at St. Mark's, before I went to seminary, and this is a high school, so it's a similar age range, and it's an exciting time. I mean, this is a time when people are really becoming who they're going to be, when values are formed, attitudes, perspectives, and the cool thing about Kent from that point of view is that the kids have to engage with religion. They have to take religion classes. They have to go to church a few times a week. But they're not expected to be Christian or be Episcopal or be anything in particular. They're totally free and encouraged, I imagine, to be and become, what they want. But that sort of dynamic of engagement and freedom, mandatory engagement and freedom of decision of conscience, seems like a really great place to be as a priest among high school kids. Yeah,
and you're talking about the Episcopal educational ethos, which takes the Benedictine rule, essentially, of prayer, of work, and of study, and that becomes the triad of educating the whole child, mind, body, and soul. But one of the differences is you're moving to a school that was founded by Father Sill, the great pater, an Episcopal monk. That Benedictine thing is very deeply embedded in that. You're living in community, almost like a monastery. It just happens to have 550 kids there. And I have no doubt that you will make a real impression upon them. This is the sort of work you're headed toward is into the frontier of what's happening in humanity, as these kids are the frontier. And you're going to be a little bit like the parable of the sower, throwing the seed of the Spirit that you know about there. And I have no doubt it's going to grow. I'm very, very excited for you, and I'm very, very excited for them. They're really, really fortunate to have you. I want to say also, in our waning moments here, not to sound weird, but we as a congregation are mightily proud of you. You were raised up here. You had a discernment group that overseen by Jack Donahue that did a tremendous amount of work with you. Some of that work difficult and some of it perhaps tedious, but in the end, all part of your journey, meaningful part of your journey, as you have come so far in learning how to talk about your faith. I want to say also to the people in TV land that you had a really meaningful and something, by my standards, illustrious career there at the Berkeley Divinity School at Yale, where as a student there you played a meaningful role in your class and most assuredly downloaded so much of the content of the faith and the practice of the faith, and just really, really happy for you and proud of you and looking forward to tomorrow when you begin another major change in your life.
Thank you, Peter.
Yeah. So God bless everybody. I look forward to seeing you on Sunday. And on Sunday, John's going to be the deacon here, and I'm very, very excited about that, where he begins to learn his new craft, which is suddenly going to feel really beautiful, awesome, and awfully awkward.
Great.
All wrapped up together. Okay, yeah. Peace and blessings. See you all soon.